Now, I know there are some that don't believe this country would purposely make them ill. They need to go back and study the Tuskegee experiment.
The history is important.
Yeah, because it absolutely would. The systems that are in place, again, it's about power and wanting to keep power. So when Black people start to galvanize and say, we're going to come outside of this, and people worship Dr. King now, they try to make you think they actually love him. But when they studied him, when he was effective in the 60s, they assassinated him because he was starting to change the system.
They love what he has become and what they have turned him into. But the Dr. King that actually walked these streets, they wouldn't fool him.
They didn't enjoy him. No, they didn't. And I always tell people that. I said, if Dr. King was so well loved, why did they kill him? So no, even nonviolent protests, white supremacy doesn't find palatable because it wants to maintain power. So it doesn't matter. You could stand for the anthem and just wear a shirt that says Black Lives Matter. They still will find a problem with that because the backlash is against this system being rooted out and racism being eradicated. When that happens, when we get a critical mass of people working on that, including faith-based leaders, churches, mosques, synagogues, then there's no turning back because you're rooting out that system and that way of thinking. And that's what the backlash is about. That's why Trump is in office. That white backlash of,
There's no lies told.
Switch automatically when I am in these white spaces, and a lot of times I do it without thinking. At this point where I am now, I really, really work to be intentional and about code switching and try to hear when I do it. But sometimes, especially when I'm meeting new people, it just comes out.
Like, where do you go? You're in your house. You're in your house. And I mentioned earlier in the show, I was having this conversation with a family member, and we were talking about, proper responses. We no longer have even that, because before, when there was not as much footage, it was comply, do what you have to do and just follow the instructions. Well, don't break the law. We are dying for jogging. We are dying for breathing. We are dying for complying. We are dying for being in our homes. We are dying for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. We are dying for using our words. We are dying for asserting our rights. We are dying, and we are tired. We're tired. And it is exhausting to be Black in this country. It's exhausting. It's exhausting to wake up and think about my nephew, my nephews, my brothers, my nieces, my cousins, my family members who are, as they get older and they are driving, they're out on their own. They're, like you said, we can't be around them all the time. I'm tired. I'm tired of worrying about myself. I'm tired of worrying about those around me. I'm tired of worrying about my community. I'm tired. I am sick and tired of not being able to breathe in this country freely. This is not the land of the free. It just isn't. Not for Black, not for brown, not for tinted. It's just not that for us. We can't do shit in this country without being murdered, modernly lynched and killed, or stalked and harassed. It's ridiculous. So I don't want to hear racism is over. I don't want to hear any of that, you shouldn't be impacted and we just have to do what we have to do and it just is what it is. No, my family members, some who are still alive today, are disgusted that in the year 2020, I, as a millennial, am still fighting the same fights that they had to fight, enduring the same trauma, enduring the same disgusting treatment that in the same way. In the same way.
Welcome back to Unmuted Nation, and it's time for the first cabinet of the year. Listen, the cabinet is where I like to bring, people that think, right? So I think often I say things like mind. I don't really want like minds, but I do want people to think. I think life is more interesting when people around you think before they speak, before they act, before they do. And my frustration, I thought it was going to end with the last president about the lack of thinking and lack of substance, but that has not been so. So joining me in the cabinet today are two people that are not strangers to Unmuted Nation at all. Josh and Kia, welcome back to the cabinet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm glad that you guys are here. And I would love to spend a whole lot of time on niceties, and maybe we have some time to talk about, what's going on with you. But I want to first just talk about what's going on in the country. And I guess from a poll standpoint, I think just talking about even from the last time you guys were here and the last time we've had some of these discussions, we've gone through an election, we've gone through an insurrection, we've gone through, we're in the midst of a pandemic that, it seems to me, this is not a factual number, but 90% of the people in this country talk about the pandemic in past tense, but it's still very current. So what is your, and then Kia, we'll start with you, what is your, I often feel, I saw a link today from the CDC about prepping for a zombie apocalypse. And I'm like, there's just so much, there's so much happening. When you think about where we are, what are you feeling? How are you feeling about the state? And let's just talk, instead of the world, let's talk the country, and we'll minimize that in a little bit.
If God is going to wrap this up, I wish God would speed it up. This slow and painful is not what I want. I don't know why it can't be quick and fast. It's I think we're at a scary time. I tell my friends, one thing that I'm sure of is I don't want to have any more kids because I don't trust this country with my heart on earth like that. And I actually feel guilty for the child that I have brought into the world. With that said, I try really hard to be optimistic, and there is always an opportunity to organize and to build a better world. So I try to keep my friends' kids around me so that I can remember what we are doing this work for, and who we're doing this work for, and who we are building a better country, community, and world for. Yeah.
I mean, so I hear you say optimism, and I'm really trying to say that I have none left. I don't think, because I think in smaller doses, right? I think I've always been optimistic, always hopeful, always sure that there is a way, even despite America showing me over and over and over again that we don't care about your black ass. We're doing everything we can against your black ass, and we will continue to do that. Aside from the country that I live in, being in that state, I think the way that things have come together, it's just, I'm thinking, and I'm regularly in conversation with people that are. And so I think that's probably why my optimism is I'm so skeptical right now. Josh, same question. How are you feeling, or what do you think about where we are?
I think we're in a shitty place. I think there are many of us who are hopeful, and I think hopeful does not mean you can't be pessimistic about the state of just where we are today. I'm we're in a shitty place, and it seems like we've been in one longer than what we thought we were in one. We're getting close to this 1 year anniversary in which everything shut down. It's March 8th for some people, it's March 15th for me specifically. And it just, you feel the weight of it. As I talk to people who are my former students from my last place of employment, they're going through. They're we've had an entire year and a half of college robbed from them. I'm thankful for life. I am thankful for the people that are still here with us. But the reality is we're down 500,000 people. 500,000. And the number is still going up. And we just can't look past that. Not to mention Congress is at an impasse. I mean, like, we're not getting basic stuff done. Craziness is happening in these state legislatures, that are dimming the futures and the outcomes for people when it comes to voting rights. I mean, we got a reprieve for maybe a week, 2 weeks after the inauguration, and that was it. I mean, like, there was no honeymoon period. Like, we did not get the bounce back that we normally get when your guy.
Like, to dive into that, do you think that the bounce back periods are over, or are you still optimistic that we have some hurdles to get through, but there is some semblance of normalcy? And I hate to use the word normalcy because I think that's a very loaded word. What does that mean? What was your normal? Why was it normal? Was normal great? It was not great for a lot of people.
Right.
But I think that our frame of reference in so many places, the places that I would go to get hope, I guess that has changed a little bit, right? The little bit of hope that I did have in the country, not to be a downer, but just being truthful, because I sit in a seat where a lot of people have looked to me for hope, right? So I don't really have an answer. And it's not that I don't think anyone is required to have the answer, but I think that it's important for people to have some sort of a guide. And I don't think that those lines are as clear as far as the government is concerned, as far as leadership is concerned, not in this country, leadership in our local governments, leadership in our school systems, leadership in our faith institutions. The leadership is just, I feel like they are responding to a system that they built like they're unprepared for what they built. So it feels like a brick wall.
So one of my students today, former students, I was texting today, he was like, the hurdles are coming too fast. And it's just like this metaphor of, running on a track, and you have a little bit of space in between the hurdles before you can jump up over the next one. But the hurdles keep coming so fast, which means you got to blow. If you're going to still run the race, you're going to blow through some of the hurdles, and it hurts. It's painful. You're stumbling. You can't ever get your stride back. And it just feels like it's just been one hurdle after the other. The race we're still running the race. Like, we're still moving, but like at a great cost. And I think for so many people, normal will have to change after this. The gig economy, people's 9-to-5 jobs are going to look different. I mean, I might have snuck to DC back in January. Don't tell nobody that. But I was able to see just in DC how many restaurants were closed. I mean, closed. I mean, this is it's going to be a while before a new normal is established. We keep throwing the word around. And it's going to feel like a brick wall that we keep on running up against every new hurdle that we come up against, every new obstacle.
I think to ask, and this is a question for both of you, I think alongside those hurdles, part of the problem is the misinformation campaign that was out, that continues to run rampant in this country, which is, okay, fine, it's there. But now we've met the intersection of misinformation and non-education. And so when people are looking to trust institutions or blindly trust institutions or blindly trust people, and those people are intentionally or deliberately misleading them, there are consequences after consequences. What is the answer to those of the people that we love, right? Because that's where I want to start. I'm more concerned when my loved ones are confused because they don't have the information. And when I give them information, there's so much misinformation, they wonder well, how do you know? And why do you think so? What do you know that we don't? I don't know anything that you can't know. This information is there, but it's really the sources that are providing the information. And whereas in the past, we could go or rely on certain people or influencers in our industry to change that. We could rely on churches or musicians or people to get involved in campaigns to change it. But to your point, Josh, it's coming so fast. What is the strategy of combating some of that ignorance, Key? What
Yeah, Kia can because I don't have. I done gave up.
That it's such a hard question, because back to the hurdles, like it's so much and it's coming so quickly. I think what I have chosen to do is just really focus on the people who are persuadable. Like, everyone is not going to understand or not going to get it. I try hard to amplify reliable sources to make sure that I am putting the conversation in front of people who need to see it. But what I'm done doing is arguing back and forth with people who value a YouTube video more than they value a doctor's opinion who has been to medical school and studied like vaccines and viruses.
Listen, I'm right there with you. I totally get that. I'm done with that. I'm not arguing with your conspiracy. I'm not arguing with your YouTube link or some Twitter page that's 57532. Like, I'm not going back and forth with
But
that.
what do you do when the CDC issues, a statement for the zombie apocalypse? I don't care if it's a joke. This is not, this is not the time to joke about this shit.
Why are we joking? Like what about all of this is a joke? Like, I don't understand. Like, I literally laughed for about 10 minutes when I saw that today, and then I did cry for 5 minutes because I don't understand where the government got the time and the resources to build a page, but build a website, a detailed website on how to combat a zombie apocalypse. Like,
y'all couldn't even get a healthcare website together, but you had time for this. I'm confused. Now, Kia is right. Do they know something we don't know? Let's assume that they're joking. Let's just assume that, because if it's a zombie apocalypse, I mean, we all dead. So, like, this is an extinction level event. But it's like it's one thing when you can kind of section off, conservative media outlets and conservative talking heads on social media as being the beginning of some of these bad ideas, false information, and even conspiracy theories. But also, and I'm speaking for us, just amongst Black folk, and I think me and Alex might have talked about this before. Part of our challenge, our legitimate challenge within Black America, is we've had far too many instances in which a conspiracy theory was actually true. We were not making it up.
These are facts.
So we have a trust problem that goes all the way back. Obviously, the main one being the Tuskegee experiment, but to COINTELPRO, there was this one, I always forget the name of it, that took place in Mississippi. That there was actually the state legislature back in the 1960s were thereby taxpayer money was funding informants to spy on their own citizens within the state. All the way to the MOVE bombing, in Philadelphia. I mean, these things have happened to us very specifically. So our trust was all
the initial FBI director tapping civil rights leaders, from one point until they killed them, right? So these things really did happen in this country. These things, so there's reason to believe some of this stuff.
But see, the problem comes in, at least for me, people don't. It's gonna sound really, common, but like common sense really isn't common. I feel that I have enough of a filter to be able to filter out. I trust that source. That sounds, wild, but I do believe it. And I'm thinking in terms of the vaccines, versus like this is a source that's not a real source about that. There are still some.
To that point, and Kia, I'm gonna let you jump in, but to that point, when I sent you the link to the CDC website, a legitimate source, a legitimate government source that had detailed information on how to prepare for and combat a zombie apocalypse, when that is on a legitimate source, like when it's literally there, what do you do? Like, what do you do?
Pack up and move to Canada, I guess. I don't know.
Like, we are so struggling with critical thinking skills, and for the CDC to do that, it's just irresponsible in the environment that we're in when no one trusts government. Like, Donald Trump was successful in destroying any little bit of government trust that still happened throughout the nation, and like that is gone. So for the CDC to do this when their voice is so important, it feels just reckless and irresponsible. And I don't know. All I know is like I'm on this website now trying to see what I need to prepare for, because maybe they know COVID side effects.
But further,
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like that fuels a conspiracy theory that we should take the vaccines because it happened because of a vaccine, which is why we're all zombies right now, which is what from I Am Legend. And I'm like,
keep going, because it doesn't stop. It also makes me want to peruse that website to find out what else is there that I haven't seen, that I don't know, that I should know. And I think that's extremely concerning and critical. Compiling all of that, right? Because I run out of words often now because I have no response for that. If I'm blindsided with the information, I really don't know. Like I'm a fact checker. I will find the fact, I know, but I can't give you a concrete answer on a lot of things right now because there's a precedent of what has happened in the past, and then there's where we are now. And I want to tie the Black community into this conversation because I think when it comes to us is really what I care about, you know. And I think I'm proud to be a Black American. I don't know if there's a song for that, but that's that. I think that care for our community is so important. My heart is often vexed over the lack of care amongst my peers, right? And I think when you surround yourself with people that care, you can live in this illusion of that everyone feels like this. And I think it's important to step out of that bubble and step into these arenas where, you know, you have to bring some semblance of light. Where would you say, because, and I don't even want to talk about stats of the Black community, about where we're headed, where our collective net worth will be by the year 2054, like all of these problematic things we need to focus on right now, because if we don't, there's no guarantee for, you know, that far in the future. When it comes to how you interact with not just the people that you are in relationship with, but the way that our community is moving forward right now, where are you?
I'm gonna I have a little bit of a challenge to what you said about the 2054 piece. I'm gonna pull back on my Cornel West from Race Matters all the way back to the 92, 93. He said one of the major challenges facing Black Americans at the time is this nihilism. You know, this we don't have anything to hold on to. And you challenge nihilism with hope. That's what almost like hope really is like a mainstay for me. You know, that's one thing you even tell people who even have suicidal ideations. You help them to think about tomorrow. You help them to think about the next day after that, to actually know that you have something that's worth living for, and people who care about you. I'm of the belief, now I say this, you know, as an ordained minister, though, you know, heavily influencing that. I believe that we need to cast out our hope towards the future. But by doing that, we do take care of the present. I think when we have such short-sightedness that all we can really focus on is the present, because the hurdles keep coming up so fast, you can't even look down the track because you're worried about, I got something right here I need to get over immediately, or I just stumbled over something and I need to recover. That's hard. I'm not saying that work is easy, but I think part of how we actually care for the present is to remind people that there will be a future. We might not be able to like really detail exactly what that future looks like, especially here in this country. I can't tell you much past 2022 at this point because we're so tied to these election cycles. You know, who knows what's going to look, you know, what Congress and what this country will look like. That's hard.
I think you made I think that's a great point. I think in mentioning 2054, it's more so the projection of Black net worth being zero.
That's a specific date. Okay.
And that specifically is tied to the lack of jobs that will be available, jobs that are starting to disappear now. And when I mention this to people, I've started to change my verbiage a little bit, because I'm like, well, the tech industry is really moving in, and people are thinking computers, they're thinking help desk. I'm not talking that. I'm talking artificial intelligence that's already replacing jobs right now. You see it with robots, and we see everyone's got, what's her name? I don't want to call her name because she'll start talking to me right now. But even that, banks, a lot of times, especially within our community, where people have not gone to college or haven't gone to get extended education or continuing education, places like banks have been great jobs for our community, for them to find stability. And now these branches are either all automated, or they're opening branches where they promote people-less branches, right? You can go there and you just deal with technology. And that's just the beginning, right? This is going to continue to spiral out of control. To combat that, we've also had excruciating, student loan debt that is plaguing the entire country, but of course it plagues us in a different way. And so you find this next generation turning away from traditional education, and this embracing of certification programs has been massive, right? Tech companies have put out certifications that take our certification, we'll hire you. And colleges are starting to jump on that same bandwagon. Instead of just the degree program, you can come here for certificate. And I think where I would like to see our community start to focus on is opportunities that it's going to. I think we have to jumpstart that, because I do not see, especially in this specific climate, which it's because of the election cycle, we're stuck in this climate right now. If we don't take some action, I don't, and that is my frustration, right? I don't know. I can't say for certain. I could say for certain, and I remember when I started to realize all of the things that were guaranteed, or at least that my generation was told would be guaranteed because of X, right? Get this degree, get this, this will be available. It's not. So I can't see that far, but I can see some things that we need to change. When it comes to, I didn't get to you on that, kid, like just the Black community and where we stand right now. What do you think?
I think what's important is I think if we think too largely about it, we get lost and overwhelmed. I think this is a good time to act local and think about, like, what can I do for my community, for my neighborhood, for my family? Like, how can I enforce change or help change happen where I am, and then let that flow into other communities, so that we can be purposeful about, like, how we're thinking about this, and so that we don't get so caught up and overwhelmed, because we can't fix all the problems by ourselves. It takes every person doing a little part to make things a little bit better.
Well said. Okay, I get that. And I actually agree. I think I want to go back to hope, Josh, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because we lean very heavily on the systems that are available to us. And we are fighting not just misinformation, but a deliberate, we're fighting deliberate systemic oppression, but it's so blatant right now. And I think even with it being so blatant, there's a lot of people and a lot of deliberate ignorance and people that choose to ignore what's happening. What's the recommendation to combat some of that ignorance?
I think we also need to look at some of the bright spots. Not everything is at the end of the world. We're not at the end of the track. There are a lot of things that are still working. Most local governments have not collapsed. The economy has not collapsed. City governments are operating just fine, which ain't great, let's be clear, but they are still operating. I was kind of one of those doomsday people on January 2017. I was like, this is the end of America as we know it. And then we had, don't get me wrong, we had some low spots. The lowest obviously being January 6th of this year. But America is not falling apart. The democratic institutions that we did trust, and that we hoped and prayed would hold fast did. They are damaged. They need to be repaired in a massive way, more than we probably even knew until the system got tested.
By holding, or as you said, these democratic systems held. Like, describe why you feel like they held.
I feel like they held in the sense that, Congress still voted. Joe Biden was installed as president, inaugurated as president. And I think that was obviously the biggest test of that. The Supreme Court held. The judiciary actually did what they were supposed to do between November 6th and January 20th. They said, these lawsuits are bullshit. Don't come in my courtroom. So I'm like, that's an institution that actually did what they were supposed to do, even though we were like, this is stacked against us. This is not going to, we will lose this because he installed all these judges and whatnot. Even in the state of Georgia, as crazy as that was, the state of Georgia actually held. Now they about to, they back in session down there trying to make sure.
We agree. Because my next question is, will they hold again? We've got a clip from Fox News, and then,
So it's worth finding out where the public is getting all this false information, this disinformation, as we'll call it. So we checked. We spent all day trying to locate the famous QAnon, which in the end we learned is not even a website. If it's out there, we could not find it. Then we checked Marjorie Taylor Greene's Twitter feed because we have heard she traffics in disinformation, CNN told us, but nothing there.
I'm so tired of Fucker Carlson, complete.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
I agree. So I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? Yeah. So I think, and that's fine, right? People they know who he is. They know what, at least we presume that they do. But there are some people that know that is their news source because they believe in God, guns, and the Statue of Liberty. And so that's that's where they go for liberation. And we know he's an idiot, right? We know, but this is what you're up against, right? I think when we are in our own circles all the time, when people that we love go to work and they are dealing with Sally Sue and Bill May or whatever, these are the people that they're talking to every single day. These people are talking to people that's all they watch, that's all they hear. So there is no QAnon. It was never a thing. You people just made that up. And so I think further, there's one more clip that I'm going to play, and then we'll talk.
Or to a newly elected government.
That was Merrick Garland today at his confirmation hearings to be Joe Biden's next attorney general. Merrick Garland has a lot of reasonable friends who say he is a smart and moderate person, but that was not a moderate statement. It was dishonest, completely dishonest. Dishonest enough you should be worried about it. There's no evidence that white supremacists were responsible for what happened on January 6th. That's a lie. And contrary to what you've been hearing, there's also no evidence that this was a, quote, armed insurrection. Now, nobody has really gone through the arrests to reach that conclusion.
I got to stop it there.
They had gallows.
I know what they had.
Capitol.
You know what they had. We saw it. I sat and covered it live. While these people were scaling walls and breaking buildings with rifles and flying Confederate flags in the State House with guns.
Police officers.
But there's no proof. There are some also allegations that people dressed up as Trump supporters, which I can't really put my finger on why that would happen. Why would people that won dress up and be upset? Why would that? Doesn't even make any sense. But this is the type of information that we're combating. So while I do agree that the democracy held, with this type of information and people, I think right now, Donald Trump still has a 78% approval rating amongst Republicans in general. And they would be comfortable with him being the president once again.
And you know what? It falls on not just progressives, but the moderates, the Democrats with sense, quote unquote, with sense in power to hold Donald Trump accountable. They will re-elect this man. It is your job to make sure he's prosecuted for the crimes that he has done. It's your job to make sure that he is unable to run and and do this damage again. It's your job to hold the people in Congress who helped him facilitate this responsible for their actions and accountable. And that is the only way we stop this. If people are power enough, are strong enough and like prophetic enough to name what happened and do something about it. And we are there. We are still trying to govern to the middle and like make sure everyone can sit at the table, and everyone does not deserve a seat at the damn table.
Period. And I'm 100% on board with that. I think to that same point, I think unless we get vocal about hold these people are accountable or you're out, I think that all of this coming to the middle and coming to the table and being bipartisan, where the hell was that for the last 4 years? What were you willing to do? Like, I see a party that really is interested in obstruction, whiteness, or nothing at all. And so I think, honestly, for me, we draw the line at not holding Donald Trump accountable at his impeachment trial. When that was deliberately done, when you saw the evidence and you said you would do it, but you don't want to lose your districts, at that point, I'm done compromising. And I don't know what it takes to get our leaders there. Everybody can't run, right? Some people don't need to run, right? I can't imagine, like, I thought about it at one point. Then I imagine that I become a headline every damn day, because every day, like, Haynes loses it. Haynes loses it.
I would be live tweeting it with you, Josh.
Right.
Like,
the tweet that came in.
There has to be like a point where I don't agree with every extreme, Democratic concept. However, I definitely know that unless we find a way to hold these people accountable, and not even find a way, that's a bad choice of words. Until we choose to hold these people accountable, we will get shitted on every single time, like over and over and over and over again. And there comes a point in time, there's a lot going on, but this you need to pay attention to. There's a lot going on, but what's happening in Georgia right now, get their names, right? The intimidation tactics will come. They're trying to pass laws to throw you in jail for thinking about protesting, which is innately un-American. So all of the things, the people that are standing behind the Marjories and standing behind Mitch McConnell and behind Lindsey Graham and behind Jim Jordan and behind Ted Cruz, and these people that literally lie to you over and over and over again. But like even today, I saw Democrats were looking to attack the CFO of the Trump organization. What the hell is that? The CFO? That's not what I want. That's not what we want. That's not what we're interested in. Where no one's interested in you getting holding anybody accountable but him.
Are they going to him to get Trump on his money? Like, is this another roundabout?
Tax records or something?
I'm hoping
they know how to get everybody else. You have no problem getting everybody else. When we talk about, and I can't even jump into it today because we will be here all night, and then I would be drinking, right? But when you talk about Donald Trump, 16 sexual assault allegations against Donald Trump, and 3 sexual harassment allegations against Andrew Cuomo, calls for his resignation, and silence on the other side, there is a glaring problem here. I'm not going to spell out the differences between those two because I don't condone either of the two. But if you can't see that, like
So for me, I think one of the challenges that we and I'm saying like the three of us, and our, compatriots on these issues, we don't have the numbers. we start off talking about systems. I think that the frustration that we have that we were unable to see a Donald Trump actually held accountable. Number one, let's be clear: 57% of the Senate said this man needs to be held accountable for it.
But why did that not hold?
Because the Constitution says you need to have 67%. You need to have 2/3.
In what part of the world is 67% equal?
So this is where me and my democracy ideas actually, I'm okay with that. In the same way that we need 75% of state legislatures to okay if we're going to do a change to the Constitution in terms of an amendment. So my thing is, if we want to see some of these changes, we as people who vote progressive and vote liberal, we need to be having some much more meta conversations. Now, I don't give Obama a lot of credit, but to Obama's credit in his post-presidency, part of what he was working on was to address the gerrymander system, specifically for this year. The Democrats lost that because we did not gain any state houses. Because part of the problem is when a state of Georgia can do what they're doing, that's because they lost this vote 97-72 because of gerrymandering. And so I'm just saying, same thing with the Senate. There are just ways in which the numbers will almost never be on the Democrat side, because the Republicans also looked at the numbers and realized we're actually in the population minority. In order for us to remain power, we have to shift and change this system to be in our benefit. And so really I'm gonna go back to talking about having a long game. The Republicans had a long game back in 1968 when they lost. When they elected Nixon in 1968, they were like, we got a 40-year plan in play. Their 40-year plan ended with Donald Trump. I'm quite clear about that. So the thing is, they don't have a plan going forward right now because they at CPAC with bad girls singing national anthems and not knowing how to move forward. And
that is A1 Republican singing.
Yes, it was. They won.
So that was bad to you, beautiful to them.
And so I'm saying, at this point, the Democrats need to have a long game on how to gain these state houses back. I'm quite y'all don't even think about state houses.
While I agree with you, my question is, when will that become a priority, and with who?
Until I'm gonna be quiet. I'm talking good kid.
So I think if you look at what Stacey Abrams has done in Georgia, it's truly a blueprint, from registering voters to taking on the census work, which the census is how we get our numbers to determine how our state districts are set up, and it informs all that. So Stacey is the one person I have seen from the Democratic Party who gets the big picture and has put in place institutions and organizations to address each part, so that it all flows and we get to the big end and win back our state houses and can really make sure that people and voters are counted.
We agree. And we need more Stacey Abrams, right? We need Stacey Abrams in South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama. We need that. Because otherwise there would not be proposed legislation in Georgia to stop people from giving people water in line.
Water and food. What the hell? That is cruel. Hope all y'all go to hell who voted for that. All of you. Go directly to hell. You have not earned the kingdom of God. Goodbye.
And Joshua, to speak to your point, Democracy in Chains is a book that traces it back all the way to the ending of school segregation. And it goes through how Republicans have mapped out this entire plan. And it's amazing. As I was reading that book, even we, progressive Black folks, there's only 5 of us, but that's a whole nother conversation. But we are repeating talking points Social Security will never be around for us. So I don't even know. That is a libertarian, conservative, Republican talking point that we have that is ingrained in us. We believe now and repeat out. So they have played the long game. We have a lot of catching up to do, and we don't have any time to lose, or we can't be passive.
So I think you're spot on with that point. The we is where we need some cohesiveness, right? So there are only 5 of us, right? So
Right.
in that, it's very difficult because of the tent size of the Democratic Party and who feels welcome there. That's also very deliberate. That's completely by design. So getting some of these people that may be more centrist or moderate to agree with the long game does not always seem plausible. I can see instances where that makes sense and where it could happen. Where, I guess my question is, because we're running out of time, and that's okay, because we can do this all day. Where do we start? Like, where do we start to start bringing people together? And what can we do, right? The people that listen to this show and watch this show, what can I do? Because I see this happening. I hear you saying that it's happening. I'm a bit alarmed. You know, people are hearing things that, damn, I didn't even know that was happening. Like, what? I can't get water? All of these things, right? I see all of this happening right now. Where can I go? Where can I start? Who can I get some guidance from? Because I live in this state. I live in Alabama. Mm-hmm. You know, I live in Texas, where
Governor,
I was trying not to say that.
After the day,
but when like I can't let that slide, right? I can't let that slide. You are a disabled governor. You are somebody that has ailments. For you to mandate 1 drop box per county in your state, like, how committed to that plan are you? Because you are someone that is not able-bodied enough to get where you need to go. Why in the hell would you restrict, other than, you know, the obvious? Why would you do that? So I think, honestly, to me, he's earned any name that he's called. Just for me, that specific point, right? The number of people that realize, you're like, why do you keep calling him that, Alex? Well, wait a minute. I did some research. Now I know. So but in those instances, right? For those people, what do they do?
I think for some people, wherever you live, be it in a rural county, or be it in an urban metropolitan area, I guarantee you, there's at least one organization in your area who would love to have you come and volunteer. I mean, we just need folk who are able to volunteer and do some of that actual activism work. And it could be, it ain't just about calling your senator or calling your state reps or calling city hall. But sometimes you just need, you know, woman power and manpower for people to actually like phone lines, and to do some of the grunt work, maybe even, or once the pandemic is out, actually door-to-door stuff. Be able to hold, you know, sessions and community rallies and whatnot once outside opens up. But I guess Texas can start doing that tomorrow if they want to. And I think that will ultimately, that's what we kind of need. We kind of need this buy-in, or even, you know what, call up your local Democratic National Party office or your Democratic State Party office. They would love to have you as a volunteer. This is not paid work, but guess what? This is the work of what it means to be a citizen. And I think that's also part of what I saw some of the challenge, for the last 8 to 12 years at this point, not just in the last 4. A lot of Black folk don't see themselves as citizens of this country. I understand why. That's actually a conversation I'll be willing to have.
I'm willing to have it as well, because I can tell you that I know that to be a fact. Yeah,
I mean, like, the identity piece is not there. Now, I have not yet to fly an American flag, you know, just on my personal, you know,
I will not.
Personal benefit.
I won't.
But I see myself quite clearly. My identity is that of the United States, and that as an American citizen. That is to say, I'm going to fight for this shit.
It's very patriotic for you to not fly an American flag. That is innately patriotic. So I think let's not get confused by this conservative rhetoric about what it means to be an American. What it means to be an American is to stand in your truth. And I think that you not flying that flag because you haven't felt it or you don't feel like it represents you, that's exactly where so many people are. But to the same point, there are way too many people that don't feel like they are citizens. I talked to so many people that they didn't get their stimulus check and they didn't think that they were entitled to one, and they didn't really know. And they didn't know that they could inquire. They didn't know that they could follow up. They didn't know, and that's not people these are everyday people that are working and that are participating in this democracy.
Well, the federal government didn't message that part right either. I mean, that's also probably why they didn't think to do that.
True. Well, I mean, I'm also talking younger too, right? There are a number of people that have been around that you would expect to know. And then there's a number of people that were 18, 19, 20.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. My ancestors like bled, sweat, and died on this land. Like, I am as American as it gets. Like, their blood, their tears, it's in this land. This is my home. I understand why people don't, but that just has not been my experience through like how my family has told the story of this being home or whatnot. I think what Joshua said is right on point. Like, one thing that bores the living shit out of me, but it is so valuable, is going to my county Democratic Party meetings, because they know what is happening, they're talking about it, and you get to see like not only like what's going wrong, not only what they're attempting to do, but you also get to see room where they could do better, and you know like the layout of the land. It helps you understand so much. In these counties, big and small, there are always people and organizations on the ground doing the work. Tap into them. New Georgia Project here. New Georgia Action Project I'm in Atlanta, so this is what I'm talking about. There's a Muslim organization that has been doing voter registration work, and Asian American organizations that the names are escaping me, but there are people doing this work every day on a grassroots level, and you need to find that organization who aligns most with your values and tap in there so that you have the information and so that you can also contribute to doing the work to undo the harm. Because what Joshua said earlier is so true. Like, our systems have survived, but they are damaged. And one thing that we do know about the conservatives and the Republicans, they are going to keep beating on these damaged systems until they break. And I don't know if everyone quite understands how close we are to that breaking. One problem that I have with white leadership is like, you don't understand how dangerous things are. A lot of times you can't see the urgency of the danger because it hits you last.
Right.
Your privilege insulates you from the immediate danger. So why Black and brown folks are like, oh no, we are in danger. There are too many white people in leadership who's like, no, it's okay, we can do bipartisan this, we can forgive them, it's time to we can't afford that, because or we won't get past 2024. Like, there will be no more free or fair elections if we don't take this seriously and react with some urgency.
No, I saw a meme that resonated with me so well. And I think had this been the message, then, I don't know what crafty response they would have had, but it was basically like, white lives matter too much. And I think that statement is very clear, right? I think that it makes sense to me. It makes sense to you. For them, I think that's a different frame of reference, right? Well, why are we lifting Black people? Why are we? Because I do think that there are some white people that are going to see that and like, damn, well, is this true? And I think that's right in line with your message, Kia. Like, these systems, you're insulated from these systems. That it's not affecting you immediately, but eventually it will. So I think I love the advice, because I think tapping into local resources is really important. It's something that we encourage, something I definitely encourage, that I would love to see more of. And aside from, the doomsday speak, we also have to talk about where we are, right? There are so many people that are just existing, and they are caught in these spaces. And so being concerned for that as well, I think, I've always been concerned for humanity. And that's really my frame of reference when I start to get frustrated or really, really pissed off with the way that not only we have been treated, but people in this country have been treated, especially, touting ourselves as the most educated and the most progressive and the most successful, with these intentional systems that are in place here, these systems were put here, to do exactly what they do. riveting conversation. I want to keep it going. I'm out of time, but we will do this again because I want to talk about Joe Biden. I want to talk about. I do want to talk about rogue Republicans because I think, you know, where does the accountability start and stop, right? How are you an elected senator for a state?
It starts with the people.
Yeah,
it starts with the people. We keep electing these. We need to own this. We need to own the fact that we're putting these people in office, and I'm gonna put myself in this, even though I did not vote for them. But we, the people, these people are not out here scamming elections. We don't want to sit with that fact. These people are getting up. Josh Hawley got elected. Ted Cruz got elected.
True. There was some scamming that was going on in the last election. But I don't even want to do that. I will say that Republicans appeared on ballots with the same last names as people that have been campaigning. And I'm talking about, this is a whole legit scam. Like, this is really dirty dancing. Like, really, it's really dirty.
The only voter fraud that's happening is on the GOP side, because even the guy that was in North Carolina, like they had to literally rerun the whole election. GOP person. So
I'm thinking back to Texas and Ted Cruz, who like hopped on a plane and went to Cancun. So not only have they like murdered a whole bunch of people, like had people freezing to death because they weren't regulating their power grid correctly. But then they come back, and the same people who were responsible for that, the governor just decides, oh yeah, COVID's over. Do what you want.
I'm gonna open it all up. All into Texas is open. Let's go. Like, it's like what?
You keep electing people who are killing.
Get ready, big announcement.
Like,
everybody take off your mask. And I wanted to mention, right? Influenza rates are down in the United States, yes, South Africa, Chile, all of these countries because of masks. Literally.
We were dirty as hell.
I had already decided that I would probably be wearing my mask for the rest of my life because I don't even want you breathing on me. And I'm okay with that because I've learned some things, right? And but I also think learning is imperative. And I just do this because I think people need to read, right? When Texas happened, I didn't know anything about Texas, but I became an expert urban planner. Once Texas, like, I know so much about the power grid and the Eastern Connection and the Western Connection and why this happened and how systemic this also was, right? And how their rates have been innately higher when they've been under the illusion that they are paying less and that it's better because they're independent. But the last time they had a blackout, they had to go get power from Mexico. And I became an expert on Texas because I had to go read about this. So I think we kind of cured.
Right. Alex, you didn't look at a meme on Instagram to get your information? You didn't go to YouTube for your information? It wasn't Twitter user 567_350?
Because they were the ones saying that
my social presence has been so light because I can't do it. Like, I just can't. And then I get on there and I'm like, I'm really trying. And then I'll have a good day. I'll have 2 or 3 days. If it wasn't for Twitter, I would be gone. I would be vanished. I would not even be there at all because it's. And I said this to Josh the last time he was here. Like, people literally don't read.
He kept on saying this.
They don't read, and so we at the core of that, right? I think what will help us, and not only going to your local branches and getting involved with your local party, and your local government, but also us putting resources in the hands of people, right? Stuff that you read, share it. And even if you have to dumb it down, Kia, you're great at that, right? The way that you will break down a thread, I will sit there and retweet it all day long because this is information that you need. So I'm just going to keep retweeting. And then if you want to follow me, that's your dumb ass. That's on you. But I'm just going to keep but I think we have to find a solution. There's got to be a solution.
So what I will say, just as a rejoinder to what Alex said about reading, for those that are listening, take this time take the lesson in civics that we've had for the last 4 years and really apply it. Learn what the governor's role actually is, because clearly I got friends in Georgia because I'm gonna know this small piece of information. But there was a public commissioner's office that was up for election in the state of Georgia. The Democratic candidate lost, but he would have been over exactly what was the problem in Texas. That is to say, like, these things actually do, like, these down ballot offices actually do have impacts on our day-to-day lives. They affect our bills. They affect how we live together. They affect the systems that we take for granted. Because you're right, I take my electricity, my internet, and my heat for granted. And I live in Boston right now. I expect to go walk over and my heat come on when it's 10 degrees outside.
And you know what? No one held the Democratic Party of Georgia responsible that man could lose an election when both senators won. Like, that should have never happened.
And Biden.
It never should have happened from a strategic point of view.
Shouldn't have happened.
Like, it's ridiculous. And people should be held accountable for that failure.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, like if you're gonna do it, go for it all the way. Like, you know, do the full court press all the time. We cannot afford to be slack. We're just looking at these top races. When we sit up here with state races, that those are, for what it's worth, those are ones that are going to affect our literal day-to-day existence in the cities and the counties that we live in.
Listen, I'm spot on with this, and I say let's also amplify this, right? Like, when there are people that are running, let's support them. Let's get out there. Like, I found myself donating to so many campaigns and learning so many names because, like, you need to win. I'm not going to name states, but there's places that I'm just not going, but I want you to win. And I think, like, I talked to the president of the NAACP from Vermont last year, and, like, just we have to go the distance, but it really takes all of us. I got to do this again with y'all. Definitely, we got to keep this going. Kia, how do people keep up with you?
Kia speaks all across the internet.
Come on and speak, Kia. Hey, I can't wait to do this. Like, you know, the live nights are probably the best to reach whatever. We're stuck in the middays right now, but the live nights are coming back. Josh, how do people keep up with you?
Same as Kia, not the same name, but on all social media platforms. I can be found at the Uppity Negro on everything.
Absolutely. All right. So Unmuted Nation continues. Of course, you can follow us everywhere on Unmuted Nation. Do not only just follow me on Twitter. Nowhere else. That's it. That's it. That's the only place that gets interesting. Josh and Kia, thank you so much for coming through the cabinet. And the conversations continue. We will continue to have these conversations. I'm happy that the cabinet is back, and we will continue to do this work. And so as you think about doing this work and how to do this work, stay connected with us, Unmuted Nation, on everywhere. Subscribe to the Unmuted Nation podcast and share this audio, share this video, share this podcast so that we can keep the nation unmuted. All right. I'm Alex Haynes. That's going to do it for us. Remember, today is greater. Believe it, speak it, and live it. You have to make the choice to be great. Your situation is not your destination, so go be motivated. I'll see you next time.